Sure which. One or the other. Yeah. So I would have, really preferred if the hand could do the chores, but I think that's coming. The next thing that they're working on is making prosthetics or rehabilitation devices using the same technology. And it's the kind of place where the soft robotics would be really, really useful. And now that they can do some of those things with less complex circuitry and doing everything 3D printed in these joints, there are a lot of neat potential applications for this technology. That's all the tech we have the time for.
All right. Now it's time for Breakthrough Moments in Science with Tobias.
When somebody comes up with a new invention and you hear about it, okay, you have multiple reactions that you can have, okay? You can be like, oh, another real good invention that I can't do now. Okay, but that's not the right attitude, okay? We've been taught by Dr. Billings that when there's a new invention, there's a whole new set of new inventions that you could use this new one to find or to break through and go even further. So every time there's a new invention, what other things could this new invention help push even further and change the world? And it seems when every generation gets their turn, and it's starting to be my turn, where you look at the child and you say, well, back in my day, or, I've found myself saying sometimes, I remember when I was your age, okay? You start saying, I'm so old that you make things up. I'm so old I remember when Baskin-Robbins was just one flavor, okay? Yeah, I remember when Old Spice was just Spice, okay? I remember when Burger King was just a Prince, okay? I'm so old that when I watch a movie on Netflix, I rewind it before I log out, okay? Be kind, rewind. That's what they say. And that kind of segues into our subject, because be kind, rewind, what does that even mean? Well, let me tell you, when I was your age, if you wanted to watch something, if you wanted to listen to music, okay, you probably used a tape of some sort, like a VHS tape or a cassette tape, like these two old things here, okay? And with those little ones, that's the cassette tape. That's how you play your music or whatever, and then this happens. Okay, some of you are like, what is that? Okay, it's not fun, okay? Go get a pencil, or you just have long fingernails and you put it back in. Anyway, that's what we used. And there were lots of problems with, now it was neat, definitely. But there were a lot of challenges with it that, you wished were better, like it would sometimes get tangled. When you copied tapes or you copied videotapes, those big VHS tapes, you get something like this. You put it in, this ever happened to you? And you hear the music, okay? It degrades over time and you lose quality. So this is kind of what we're talking about in the world that we were in, all right? When a new kind of media came onto the scene. And that media was something that utilized this new digital world. Now remember, we're talking computer language here, so ones and zeros, bits and bytes, on and off. Okay, could we store sound, or could we store movies in this bits information and data instead of on this magnetic tape? We're not going to get into how the VHS and cassette tapes worked, but we're going to jump back to the 1950s when David Gregg had an idea of what if we could use an optical light system where we stored data, and in his case he was trying to store like a movie, onto a disc that was made of like a glass or a reflective surface. And using the reflections on that disc, we could store yes or no, on or off bits or bytes, so it's just one way or another. That's how you're storing ones and zeros, on and off. But you need a lot of them to be able to store any real amount of data. So you'd need to be able to either make this huge or make your data storage method really, really small. So he starts looking at this, and he's the one who first patented the idea and the process of actually having a disc that had these little, and they call them pits on them. And they're basically, there's these microscopic indents, you could say. In some cases, they worked with foil or a little really smooth aluminum or glass, and so on and so on. Well, he came up with what would become this thing. Now, this looks like a CD. If you know what a CD is, this looks huge, okay? This is old for even my time. Okay, this was the Laserdisc. And this technology first came about for playing movies. And that disc is about a foot wide. And it was double-sided, okay? And, you know, when you have, I don't have a Laserdisc, but I have a CD, a compact disc. This was kind of like the next generation. And in case you're wondering, this is Neil Diamond's greatest hits, okay? It's from my car. It was this or Disney Princess, okay? That's not because that's what I listen to, okay? In case you were wondering. But this shiny surface is what he used to store the data. Now, how does that work? Well, it turns out they used a beam of light, a laser, in fact, that was focused down to around a 30,000th of an inch. And they made these little tiny pits. Now, on that big foot wide one, they had about 14 billion of these pits on the disk. And if you looked at it under a microscope, it looked kind of like this. In fact, that is what it is. Those little indents are pits. And so the way it would work is the laser beam would shoot at that shiny part, and every time there was a pit, it would not reflect back up. But when it would hit one of those, they call it land, those points that's sticking out, it would reflect back up to the laser. And the way they had it was a prism was between the laser and the disc, and the laser would go through the prism and hit the disc, and when it would reflect back up, the prism would shoot it off to the side to a sensor. So the computer inside this player could tell every time light was being reflected back, and every time it wasn't. When it would hit a pit, it would be scattered, and it wouldn't reflect back. And so you'd get on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off, and that's the bit language actually being communicated. So they were able to use this to store data. And the laser disc of watching movies on discs this big didn't catch on incredibly. It did catch on somewhat. It's kind of a big disc to have. And also, you could fit I think 30 minutes roughly usually on one side, so you'd have to flip it several times in a normal movie. Then Titanic, you're going to need a whole book, okay? But eventually that would give way, and we would, remember, this is now in the 70s, so we went from Laserdisc to VHS and to cassette tapes. And then a company, Sony, and some other companies as well, came up, wait, what if we used this for audio, for sound? And they figured out a way to make a much smaller disc, the one we're familiar with, okay, the compact disc, for listening to music. And they were able to store, what we know now as kind of a CD's worth of music, okay? And it was much higher quality than on a cassette tape. And you didn't have to, you want to listen to the tape? Let's start at the beginning. We got 5 minutes. You want to go to the bathroom? We got to rewind, okay? When you went and rented a movie at the VHS store, you open it up to put the tape in, and it says, "Be kind, rewind." Okay? That means that when you're done watching the movie, you're going to return it to the store. You put it in, and you rewind. And that took a while. Okay? It wasn't just push a button or just open it up and you're done. Okay? And the cool kids had the rewind machines. You take it out of the VCR, you put it in this special rewind machine. It was really fast. Look out, future. Okay? But then, wait a minute, but we now have, we don't just have music on these, we have DVDs. We have full movies. Well, it turned out the amount of space they could put on these was about, 700 meg, give or take, okay? And it turned into, if we could get a better laser, we could get those pits to be even smaller. And to talk about why they used lasers and kind of how it worked, I have this construction tool, okay? So if I take this construction tool, and this is for if you're cutting a piece and you want to get the shape perfect, you take this and you push it onto something like that, okay? Now I have the shape. So if we get this real tight, we can see the pattern that's been made with these little sticks. I have another one that's more fine. So if I take this one and I push it on, and we hold them up together, if you look, you can see that this one, if I move, you can see it's much higher res. And we can see the pattern much better. That is pretty much the same idea in that if you could get your wavelength of the laser to be tighter, a laser light that had a smaller wavelength, you could fit more in the same space. And the music CDs that we had used an infrared laser. Well, eventually they would figure out a way to use a red laser. Now remember, infrared is under red, so red is a smaller wavelength than infrared. And so that's how we started doing DVDs, because now instead of 700 meg, which is less than 1 gig, we could do over 4 gig on one disc. Then they wanted to do high definition movies, okay? And those wouldn't fit on 4 gig, and they came up with an invention, well, using someone invented the blue laser. Now remember, red, infrared's here, blue's like way up here, okay? Blue is a much smaller frequency. And so they were able to do blue lasers and make the same size of disc hold around 25 gig instead of 4.7. And all of a sudden we were able to do high definition films on the little disc. And then we had, you go to the store, you have to choose. You have to choose the normal version or the all new HD Blu-ray, blah, 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 blah stuff, okay? And you could fit so much more. So here's kind of a graphic showing those little pits that the laser is reading, and they would write those pits, and then they would read them. And all the way up to now where we can fit so much more in the same space because of this invention growth in the laser field. So every time there's a new invention, just be like, man, what can I use this to change the future so that someday I remember back when we didn't have that. Thank you.
All right, and now introducing Roger Billings.
Was that to signify what was happening earlier with our feet?
So moving on. What happened to your people? They kind of
I
blew it,
love
didn't they?
that phrase. They're just getting ready.
Maybe you
No.
forgot to feed them.
How unmotherly of me. Maybe they don't need food.
So moving on, I have some random pieces here, and what I'm looking for is an idea of what to do with these. So let's make something. Do you have any idea of what we can make with these? Okay. Challenge me. I'm ready for anything.
You could make a stick figure.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, make a new intro for you. No, seriously. What can we make?
I was being serious about the
Okay,
stick figure.
what is it? You want a stick figure?
2 legs, 2 arms,
Okay.
skinny body.
Before we started, I said, when I ask you, you're supposed to say, this is where you say it. We rehearsed this, okay? Can we start over? Da, 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 bum. Okay.
I'm waiting for my
So
intro still.
what shall we?
I'm not ready yet.
So you're going to complain about that intro all night, aren't you? Come
Okay,
on.
what we really need is we need some robots.
We need a robot.
We need a robot.
What kind of a
A
robot?
really fast robot.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Okay.
Is that
A
fast enough?
stick figure. And they thought this was rehearsed. Okay.
Yes, we need a robot.
How would we possibly make a robot out of these?
I have no idea. Absolutely no idea.
An
But you do.
impossible task. Wait just a minute. Shh, shh, shh. Could we have a little bit of silence, please? I think the inventive process is happening. I can feel a light going on.
Love it.
Voila!
Voila.
I have an idea. We could build this into a robot that could go very fast.
I would love to see that.
Okay, watch this.
Okay, I'm watching.
So this could be a leg, right?
Could
If
be.
this was a leg, we could just hook it on here.
Okay. That's impressive.
And this could be another leg. Could kind of go on here.
Oh,
How's
I love
that?
it so far.
Dun,
That's gonna be a
dun,
robot?
dun, dun. Looks like it.
Really fast robot?
This, let's see, got to get the right thumb. I put the left on the right. That would be a new invention, wouldn't it? Okay. A lefty that was right. Okay, how's that?
That is neat.
Okay, now watch this. Okay. 'Cause you light up.
Is it named?
Okay.
Is his name Blinky? What's his name? Oh, it's going.
He can't stand up
It's going to dance.
because he's been poorly created.
Does he need my help?
Maybe. Oh no, he's here to help you.
He's here to help me.
Yes, let's adjust this. His little wave arm. And his other
I'm
arm.
loving this little robot.
Okay, now you love him because he's here to help you. You see that? Okay, robot, do your thing.
Look, my people came through.
All because someone had an idea. Okay, we pretty well exhausted our rehearsed script.
Did I flub that or what?
You did your best, and that's what matters.
I flubbed it. My apologize. My apologize, whatever.
My apologize. My apologize too. Yeah, just put him to rest over here. Okay. Oh,
I really like that little
unscrew
robot.
this light bulb so that it won't keep lighting up like that. It's bad when it does.
Oh! Look. They're just so excited. All those electrons.
Electrons. Yeah, your people are amazing. Okay.
They are.
So, Tobias. So he's telling us about how old he is.
I thought that was.
That's funny. So I remember when I bought my first Laserdisc player. I think I was one of the very, very first people to get them. And I was so impressed. It was this big, and you could play a half hour. You put the disc on this. He didn't tell you how expensive the players were because they had an actual laser inside them. I was so impressed with those that I actually took a trip all the way over to Belgium to the Philips laboratory where they developed it. Yeah, it was really neat. And then he talked about, back in his day, they made the CDs and then the DVDs, and then finally, by getting a blue laser, they were able to make the spot really small so they get a lot of data on one disc. The guy that invented that blue laser is a friend of mine.
Yep.
And we sat for 2 hours listening to him tell us the story of how they finally got the laser to work in blue. And it's very, very small. But I think some people are wondering, so we saw those little pits in the disc, and the disc spins and the grooves go around like a spiral in the disc. How do you turn that into a picture? And it's interesting. It gets a little more interesting in more modern times as we develop neater and neater kinds of television displays. But just think, if you start up at the top left-hand side of the screen and you have a pixel there, it's a spot where you can identify it and say, okay, that is a spot. In the early televisions, it was actually a little deposit of a material that if it got hit with an electron beam, it would give off light. And you actually shot an electron beam at that pixel, and then you scanned from left to right. You say, I'm going backwards, but no,
Well, some people read that way.
yeah. You go across the top row of the screen, and every place that you want there to be an image, you shoot the electron to make it draw a picture, and where you don't want it, where you just want it black, you turn it off. On, off, on, off. You just shoot across. And then you do the next row, and the next row, and you go all the way down. When a television station broadcasts the signal, it broadcasts whether or not that first pixel is on or off, whether or not the second one's on and off, and as the beam goes across, it paints the picture like this. And because this material that fluoresces when it gets hit by an electron, when it flashes for a while. And so that makes it look like it's a whole picture because it's fading out gradually. I think it's pretty neat. Nowadays, we get a little fancier. The next step was to make colors. And so to make it colored, they had 3 electron guns that would all shoot up in that top left corner, and they had 3 different kinds of fluorescent material. So when they were hit by the very same kind of electrons, they would glow different colors, red, green, and blue. And they actually made them in such a way that if the gun was over here, it could only hit the blue one, because they couldn't shoot them accurate enough. And they had a little tube for the green one from this, and they had 3 guns, and they'd draw them across with the 3 colors. Nowadays, we actually just create a display where you turn on an LED. First, it was a liquid crystal display. You know how those work? They have literally a liquid that has a chemical in it that if you turn on the electricity, it becomes opaque. And so it blocks the light behind it. And now the latest ones are the laser displays where it actually turns on little colored lasers at each of those locations. Wow. It's amazing how far the technology has come since Tobias was created in a laboratory.
Is he one of my people?
Might be. Might be. Anyway, it's really pretty amazing, isn't it? Yeah, so, and through that kind of technology, we now can feed out. Now, it bothers me a little bit. I mean, not for me. I'm okay. I'm okay with it. Because, you know, I've been around.
Is it for me?
It's for you. That's what bothers me.
I could feel it coming.
Because they're actually taking your image and squeezing it down into a little train of bits and shooting it over the internet. What does that feel like even?
It's uncomfortable.
Can you feel it?
I can, especially when you have to put it out there.
But it's okay because the students are able to put that all back together and look at you. You look, is that blue? Yeah, they look fine.
It is blue. Is it not your favorite color?
So let's pretend I have a tablet here. Open it up.
Okay.
Okay, I got some questions coming in from the kids. Do you mind if we ask you a few questions? Is your hair color natural or chemical?
It's natural.
It's natural. Okay. Is that hair or is it an alien substance?
It's an alien substance.
Okay. Now we're getting down to the serious questions. Are you going to teach another social emotional course? I mean, it's the kids. Stand by, answer coming.
I am.
I am. She is. She's going to do it, which is pretty exciting. And do you have an announcement to make about your new course?
I do.
Okay. And now we'll turn over a few minutes to Dr. Pajèt Monet, who will be making an announcement about her new course.
It's not called social emotional learning.
What's it called? Is this for all kids or just over 18?
Yes, it's for all kids and those over 18 as well.
Okay. Unfortunately, I won't be able to for a few years, but Toby can. Okay, so tell us what it's going to be called.
It's going to be called Social, Emotional, and Career.
And you're going to add career to the so. Can you tell us what you're thinking and why you're doing that?
I can.
Okay.
So in the social emotional courses that you and I participated in, actually, that I filmed prior, it was all about the social emotional learning and discovering what we need to know about ourselves. The social emotional career aspect of it is engaging you in thinking about how you are going to use your social emotional skills to advance you in your career. If you have a career, which you will have, because I'm going to help encourage you to have one, you are going to need to learn how to interact with people. You're going to need to learn how to read people's emotions and learn if you say something that's a little bit bitey, especially if you become a manager, how you can say that better. And taking into the whole concept of realizing that social emotional is about life. And how you make your life work is what you are going to be known for. And we're going to get in a lot of the real nitpicky things of what you can and can't say. There will be things that may be absolutely correct, but you can't say it that bluntly. You have to say it in the way of, well, that's a way of looking at it. But
Why can't you say it that way?
you're going to hurt lots of feelings. You just are. And people are going to think that you are their enemy, that you don't like them. They're going to think, my goodness, she really doesn't like me. And in fact, what you're really doing is you're saying, no, we can do this better. But learning how to say it in the right way will inspire them to do their best, be the
So
best.
when I talk to you, you're saying I need to say it in a certain way so you'll be happy?
Absolutely.
I would like to say that whether it's hair or some alien substance, I think it looks very nice tonight. How'd I do? How did I do? Did I do all right?
You know, you
Well,
have taught me
anyway.
a lot through Science Life.
I have. What'd I teach you?
You have taught me how to react. I mean,
Are you a chemist? Reaction?
Sometimes
Okay,
I am.
good. Well, I am excited about the course, and I'm excited about tying it into the career. But some of the questions are coming in. Some are wondering, is a stay-at-home parent a career?
Absolutely. It's one of the hardest
And one of the most important?
and one of the most important.
That's right, yeah. So for all of them.
For
Well, this will
every
be
single career.
something exciting. I think it's really an exciting idea. There's something else that I'd like to share too, because we're making progress towards expanding our university program, the Institute of Science and Technology. SELUS, K through 12, actually now SELUS starts at 3, and we're even going to push down now to toddlers. Turns out that toddlers learning sight words and signing and things, it's a great jump start. But SELUS is K through 12. When you get your high school diploma, then you're ready to go to the university environment. And so we've been developing the Institute of Science and Technology. And I want to talk a little bit about that because we always try to innovate when we do something like this. And in our program, which was inspired by Sir Geoffrey Pardo, and we've talked about him many times, a very, very amazing guy, told you about how on a train ride he told me he thought there was a great need for an institution of higher learning that would help people to become applied scientists and be able to actually do things. And at the board meetings when we were creating the Institute of Science and Technology, he and Dr. Hawkins and Dr. Tupolev from the Soviet Union would have these discussions. What should we call it? What is this new way of learning and so forth? And Dr. Pardo came up with the term an innovationeer. Innovationeer, he said it's a mouthful. He said that's not quite it, it's not it. Walt Disney came out with an idea called an Imagineer for the people that create Disneyland. But we finally settled on the term Inventioneer. And the whole idea of studying Inventioneering is is kind of exciting to me. In Dr. Pardo's way of thinking, which I have been thinking about for many years, I now have come up with a phrase to kind of explain what Inventioneering is. And I say that Inventioneering is the science of putting science to work.
Love it.
You know, technology. Like, I have this little guy here, and I could look at him and say, okay, what kind of Inventioneering could I do? If I invent something, well, then I'm able to have new possibilities. But if I take that invention and actually turn it into something that makes people's lives better, then I am an inventioneer. So discovery is the first step. And that's the part that science does so well before Inventioneering, is they have to study it and make the discovery like, whoa,
Oh,
okay,
was it shocking?
it's amazing. Want to try it?
Amazing.
Would you like to try it? Okay. But then when you figure out how to make it go to work, to make the world better, to serve, to inspire, to protect, to do the things we want, that is Inventioneering. And that's really, see, we need Inventionate, a way to keep that leg on. Then that is the new technology. There's a story about Dr. Pardo that I've never shared in this forum that is kind of interesting. He became one of my dearest friends. And like I say, he lived in London. He was the chairman of what they call the Watt Committee. And the Watt Committee is the British version of the Department of Energy. He was a very, very powerful guy. When the Americans sent the astronauts to the moon, Dr. Pardo was the guy on national television in the UK that was telling all about the lunar landing, etc. He's just really a well-known celebrity over in that part of the world. But he was so excited about this Institute of Science and Technology and the fact we'd create a program that would train people how to really use technology and put science to work. It became kind of one of the biggest things in his life. And I have to tell you about my last meeting with him. He came from London to Kansas City many times to help us do this program. And as I shared with you before, he was one of the members of my doctoral committee. My doctoral project was to build the first hydrogen car that didn't use an engine, but used these fuel cells, and it would make the car go 3 times as far on just one tank of gas. So he and I set up a date for him to come and meet with me, and I had finished my degree by now, and the school was starting to really get ready to rev up. And so he flew in from London, and I headed out to the Kansas City airport to pick him up, and I parked my car and went into the gate and waited for him to get off the plane. The people were getting off, his plane was in, and he didn't get off the plane. And so finally, I checked with the flight attendants when they came off, says, no, the plane's empty, everybody's off. So I thought maybe he missed his flight or something, and I went back to my office and I called the UK and I got his wife. And while he was flying across the Atlantic Ocean coming to see me, he fell asleep and he didn't wake up. They didn't realize that he had died until they landed in New York City. And so I can say, to his dying breath, Dr. Pardo believed in this technology and wanted to see it go forward. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so devoted to seeing this happen, because he thought it was so important. And he thought it was going to be a key, not just to make world better and to create a lot of careers, but he had a bigger vision than that. He thought that this inventioneering was going to be a key to keep the free world free. And his concern was that if we get too far behind in technology, not just theoretical technology, but applied technology, that we would probably have our freedoms slip away. It turns out that being able to be an independent nation requires that you have cutting-edge technology. And that's one thing that our great American scientists have done so well since the formation of this country, is we've been able to be leaders in science and technology. And so while we're graduating a lot of very brilliant kids from high schools and putting them into college, we need to have a certain percentage of you students that are able to take that knowledge and actually put it to work. So the Institute of Science and Technology is devoted to the concept of teaching the science of putting science to work. And if I can just add a little bit more about that, science is, in my view, my definition, science is the search for what is, or the search for truth. And every discovery helps us see the truth of our existence just a little bit more plainly, just a little bit more clearly. And I think that's really exciting. So when we talk about science, we talk about the scientific method. And the scientific method is a way that you're able to learn things about the world and see them that other people might miss. And do experiments to actually be able to confirm that what you think's happening, that your hypothesis is real. Now, I have brought some friends. These are some little rods of metal. And speaking of little rods, here's a little one. Would you mind holding that for me in your right hand?
This is my right hand.
Are you sure? Good, good. And now, I would like you to hold this one in your other right hand. No, your other one, right. That'd be your wrong hand. Okay, good. What I'd like you to do now is balance these two rods and determine which one is the heaviest. Just, you can kind of accelerate them, whatever you need to. She's kind of processing this now. Oh, she's flying them. There's another clue of her origin. Okay, so which one's the heaviest? This one is not the heaviest. We tricked her.
Did we?
They are exactly the same weight. Try it again.
I can't tell.
They are
Really?
the same weight. This little rod
Why is
is
this
a
one so
piece
lighter?
of lead.
Okay.
This lead, it weighs 100 grams. This is a piece of aluminum. It also weighs 100 grams. The aluminum is bigger than the lead, quite a bit bigger because lead is very dense. Mm-hmm. Interestingly, both of these are made up of electrons, protons, and neutrons. And the only difference is how many protons and electrons are in every atom. And because this one has more than this one, it's heavier. And it's quite a bit heavier, as you can see.
It's heavier?
This is heavier per cubic inch than this one, or it's more dense. Okay, we call density is how much it weighs per unit volume. So the same size, this would be much heavier. And what we have here is we have the same weight, so this is much bigger. Does that make sense? In my little display, I have 6 metals, and they all weigh 100 grams.
How neat.
This is iron. Iron, of course, is what makes up steel. Next to it is one of my favorite metals.
Is it
Do you know what that
stainless?
is? Stainless.
Stainless?
No.
Oh, what is it?
Stainless steel? No.
What is it?
Well, you go ahead and smell
It smells like you. I can smell your cologne.
it. Now, when you're studying social emotional, maybe you should. Could I please have my favorite metal back? I said please. Thank you. Okay, this is the mystery metal. We don't know what it is. This one, can you see that? That's pure gold.
No, it's not.
Okay, but it's gold color.
It's gold color. I know what pure gold
So
looks like.
if it's not gold, what is it?
I'm
Fake
guessing
gold?
brass.
Brass. And what is brass?
It's fake gold.
Fake gold. No, that'd be false gold. This is copper. Can you see the difference in color? This is a little more red. This is a little more goldish. Does that make sense? Can you see the difference? It turns out the brass is a mixture of copper and our mystery metal.
Is it titanium?
If you
What
put
is it?
titanium,
No, it's too
that'd be
big.
interesting.
Too
If you put copper and our mystery metal together, then you get brass. Now, why do these metals weigh so much different for the same size? Why is their density different? Why do they have different colors? Why do they have so many different properties? And the only difference is how many protons are in their little nucleus and how many electrons. But they have completely different personalities. In science, we study the difference. We study the properties. We find out that each one of these melts at a different temperature. We find out that they all have different properties and they can be used for different things. And that's where we now take the science of learning about these metals and put it to work by figuring out what to do with it. Lead, for example, has a very low melting point for a metal. It has to be hot, but you can melt lead. Now, I'm sorry, Tobias, but I'll bet you don't remember using lead like I remember using lead. If you think you're old, good start, buddy. Good start.
So how
okay?
did you use lead? What did you
How
do?
did I use
Yeah.
lead? I was very interested in helping my dad when I was very young. We took some lead, actually some lead pipe. We put it in a little crucible, a little ceramic dish, and we put just a regular propane torch under it, and it melted into a shiny molten metal. And then we poured it into and around our sewer pipes we were putting in our crawl space. We actually used to use lead to join pipes together for sewers. We also used to have all of our water run through lead pipes because it doesn't corrode much. We found out that lead can cause lead poisoning, which isn't too cool. But you know, back then we also used lead to put fillings in our teeth. A metal called amalgam. It's a mixture of lead and silver. And they mix it together. Do you remember those shaker machines? If you remember those, you're old. You remember those, Tobias? Yep. You realize that all the good things happened before you were born. Actually, it just keeps getting better and better. It is such an exciting time to be alive. But yeah, lead, which we now know can be kind of hard on the body, we would put in our teeth. We used it for our water pipes. And that's why I am like I am today. Okay? Because it's pretty interesting stuff. But lead has a lot of properties. Since it's so dense, just a little piece weighs 100 grams. We use it for things like the bullet in a rifle because it's very dense, so it carries a lot of energy when we shoot it through the air. Lead's pretty neat stuff. Copper, of course, is an excellent conductor. We use it for wires and transformers and motors and so many different things. And then we get back to the mystery metal.
Yes, I'm
The
very
one I really
yeah,
like.
I should know this.
Yes, you should.
I'm going to learn
I'll tell you a
this
little bit
tonight.
about it.
Okay.
In density, you can see by the size, it's between aluminum and lead in density. And it's silver and it's shiny. Yep, it's hard.
The chrome.
Chrome?
What is
Nope.
it? Tell me.
Nope, nope.
I'm dying
nope,
up
nope.
here. That nice smile.
Are we enjoying this or what? So you pretty much don't know. I'll give you
I
some
don't
clues
know.
now. Let's give her some clues.
Okay.
If you put this metal into a test tube, like I did many times when I was young, and then you pour some hydrochloric acid over it, it bubbles. And the bubbles are hydrogen.
Of course, it has to do with hydrogen.
This metal in many acids bubbles off hydrogen. It's a great way to make it in a laboratory. I could actually blow up a balloon by putting a stopper in a test tube or a flask and put this metal inside there with some acid, and it would blow up a balloon. This is the laboratory way to make hydrogen. One of the laboratory
I
ways.
thought it was aluminium.
There it is.
I know.
Aluminium doesn't do that.
I thought it did that.
Nope.
Okay, I'm going to have a different session on that.
Yes. And so I can see why you're an electrical engineer, and I would just suggest you consider chemistry for your next career. But it's interesting.
okay.
Each of these branches of science gives you the information to be able to do certain kinds of things. Zinc.
Well, I was not getting there.
Zinc, and it's an amazing stuff. If you mix it with copper, it makes beautiful gold brass. We use brass in so many different ways for faucets. It's pretty non-corrosive. They use it to make some kinds of jewelry. If you make a ring out of it, it kind of marks your hand after a few weeks of wearing it. Matthew knows because he got his wife a ring out of a gumball machine. And he had to upgrade to gold because gold doesn't do that. Yeah, yeah. I'm sure she gave him the word, right? But zinc is a really wonderful metal. Now, why am I talking so much about these? Because that is science, to study the properties, to learn about these, to learn their melting temperature, to learn how they react with different chemicals, to learn whether or not they corrode. Did you know that aluminum, you've heard of aluminum. Aluminum is a metal that is very reactive. One of the demonstrations they do in college chemistry labs is they take a piece of the metal sodium. Sodium looks like aluminum, it's shiny metal, but when you open a bottle in the laboratory of sodium, it's full of oil. And you pull the sodium out of the oil because they keep it under oil. And it's soft, you can kind of slice off a little piece of sodium metal with a knife, put it back in the oil, close the bottle. Then you take the piece that you pulled out and throw it in a beaker full of water, and it'll start reacting, and it'll actually burst into flame because it's reacting so fast. Sodium is very radioactive with water. Aluminum is very radioactive with water. Kind of like sodium. And yet here I am holding it with no oil. How come? Scientists that studied aluminum found out that it paints itself. No? It paints itself. Aluminum loves to react with oxygen, and it forms a chemical called aluminum oxide. And aluminum oxide, you can see through if it's a thin layer. It paints everywhere. If you scrape some off, it'll immediately react back over and heal itself. And if it didn't, it would all go. Isn't that fascinating? So scientists study and learn those properties. Inventioneers take those properties, which scientists all around the world are digging out, and we say, so what could we do with that? One of my mentors and dear friends in the early years of my company was George Romney, Mitt Romney's dad. He was on my board of directors for a decade. And before he met me, before I was born, in fact, George Romney was with Alcoa, the aluminum company. Did you know that the metal on top of the Washington Monument is aluminum? And when they put it there because it was a precious metal.
Yep.
And then someone learned how to use bauxite to produce cheap aluminum, and now we use it everywhere. It's an amazing thing. So that's what we do. Now, I've got some quick announcements that you really want to hear. First of all, yes, the science fair entries have been judged, and we have winners. In fact, did you know that I know how many winners? Incoming news. It's coming, it's coming. Whoa, here they are. We have grand prize winners. My goodness, we should read these off. Do you want to read some? Yeah, just read those. We're going to post these.
Oh, wow.
But just read from the
five
fives, right?
stars?
No. Just
No.
read those right there.
Okay. Levi Parker, Rosalinda Underwood, Mila Clementson, Hannah Parada, Bethany Rogers, Brianna Alves, Evan McCurdy, Felix Pujay, Gideon Stevenson.
No, Pajèt. Sorry.
Yes. He's in Canada. Gideon Stevenson, Grayson Parada, Jason Butler, Josiah McGregor, Lydia Hales, Megan Alves, I apologize, I didn't say that correctly, Peter Stark, Sebastian Zarate, Violetta Pasco.
Thank you. All of you people are first place winners in one of our categories, and you'll all be getting prizes, and there's more too. It's exciting. We had a wonderful science fair. We're making a special posting of all of these winners and even the videos of your projects, which are going to reappear in the new version of Acellus Neighbors.
No way, you're going to put that, you're going to put...
September
what?
1st,
No.
summer will be officially over, and the Acellus Neighbors will be live, so be ready for it. And there will be a special page, and all of you guys will be there. But we are starting to send out the prizes, and I just want to congratulate all of you that made the entries. We've got some second place winners, and it's a lot of good stuff there, which I want them all to know about.
So
I
you're
think it is
giving
exciting.
Neighbors back?
Of course, Neighbors has taken a nice summer break.
you go. You can say
It
thank
has
you, guys.
been greatly revised and improved from the things we learned, and it'll be back September 1st. Same place it was before, okay?
That's awesome.
Now, there's more though. Kids kind of enjoyed Neighbors. Parents kind of felt left out.
Yeah.
So, would you parents be interested in knowing that we now have Neighbors for parents of Tobias's generation?
Wow.
And we call it schoolparents.com.
Yep.
And it's not going to be out in September. It's out right now.
Wow.
It's just starting to come out, but there's some there, and you can go enroll for it. Schoolparents.com, which is Neighbors for Parents. This site is intended not just to be for Acellus, the way we've designed it, it's for everybody that's interested in students studying independently, homeschooling. And I am inviting, I have had no takers yet, of course I haven't told anybody, but I'm inviting all of the people that have developed courses for homeschoolers to put them here so that we can find out about them all. And this was developed so that we can move our parent discussion groups and things onto a place where hopefully it'll be more accessible. To be able to go see the schoolparents.com site, you don't need to register. You can see it, but if you want to post, then you have to get yourself a sign-in and get into it. So bear with us. This is our launch month, this meaning the month of August. And so it'll take a month to kind of get it going, but it is there, and I'd love to have you start looking at it and giving us your feedback, and I'm hoping we'll get a lot of dialogue going. There is a tremendous amount of interest in information about how to successfully help students study at home. And it looks like some of the schools are going to be having study-at-home programs this year. We helped a lot of schools last year. We have a lot more signing up this year, and so it's going to be an important year. So schoolparents.com. Okay?
Okay.
There's also a new website coming. It's not there yet. We have the domain. We just got it this week, and it's sciencelife.com.
Yes.
But it is not, there's nothing there yet. You can go look at it and say, not found.
I'm excited about that one.
But Dr.
all.
Pajèt's been trying to get that site for a long time. And a lot of people that have tried to find it have had a hard time. So now it's got its own domain. And just as quick as we can, we'll get it up so you'll be able to watch it there or wherever you watch it now. So am I getting through all the news? What else?
I want to know why zinc is your favorite metal.
I didn't say it was my favorite. I mean, if you make me choose between this and gold, I would probably choose platinum. I really,
I have to clean my ears.
I
'cause
love
I heard you
platinum.
like zinc.
Platinum is what I use in my fuel cells, my electrolyzers. It is really amazing stuff. But every one of these metals has a personality and a property, and you can do things with them. And knowing the elements is like knowing the building blocks of the universe, and a lot of the keys of what you can do come by knowing those well enough to be able to put them to work. And that's why we have chemistry, and why we have math, and why we have engineering. Study hard, study hard. It's going to be a great year, and thank you for joining us.